This is the 19th season of Bass Talk Live. BTL is presented by Bass Cat Boats, Strike King Lures, AFTCO, Pro Guide Batteries, X-Zone Lures, Shoreline Boat and RV Repair, Spro, Gamakatsu, Big Bite Baits, The Bass Tank, Denali Rods, Beatdown Outdoors, and Sunline.
BTL coming at you.
Good evening and welcome to another exciting edition of BTL Bass Talk Live, where we are going to talk about bass fishing. And yes, we are live from the third Bassmaster Open EQ of the 2023 season. We're in South Boston, Virginia. It's basically the border of North Carolina and Virginia on Bugs Island or Kerr Reservoir. And I am with Andrew Upshaw, fellow EQ angler, FLW Tour champion, Costa Series champion. How much money have you won in tournaments, Andrew?
I really don't know.
Why do you not have your microphone on?
Because I wanted to hold it like a microphone.
Put the microphone on.
It's way cooler if I hold it like this. I'm gonna talk like that.
No, seriously, how much have you won in tournaments? Because I was thinking about someone asked, and I think you've won like $500,000.
Yeah, I think it's around that or something like that.
That's pretty impressive.
I had a really great couple of years, and now we're here in the Open.
It's not. I mean, that was your decision, though.
No, it was my decision.
After the 2019 season, you did 2020, and then you fished with your room was Brad Holman, Scott Martin, you,
Castledine,
and Todd Castledine.
Yep.
That's a hell of a room. And then Castledine went back to dominating local stuff. Is that when he did he stop fishing the FLW Tour? And
yeah, we all stopped fishing in 19, and then we went to the Opens, and Scott made it in 2020. I think Castledine either stopped in 2021. I think he stopped and went back home at 2021.
Right. And then Scott made the Elite Series in
2020. No, 2020.
2020. Yeah. And then Brad, and then that's when I came on, and then Brad made the Elite Series last year.
Yep.
So
I'm the last one.
The last one.
Yep, the last one. Yep.
What do you think so far of the Open EQs? So Open EQs, if you guys haven't been following, there's 173 fishing all 9 of the Bassmaster Opens. Bassmaster made a change to where they take the top 9 in the standings instead of the top 3 from each division, and then the top 6 overall, which is what it was last year. Or top 3 overall?
I don't know.
It was top 3 overall,
top 3,
which is what it was last year. So now the only way to make it to the Elite Series is fish all 9 of the Bassmaster Opens and finish 9. So 3 into the all 9. And this is the 3rd year that I fished all 9 of them. I've noticed a difference.
Yeah.
Have you?
Yeah, the thing about the Opens is it's a grind, and you're going to have really good tournaments, and you're going to have really bad tournaments. We're coming off a really bad one for me at Toledo Bend, in a place that I call home and have a ton of experience. And the reality is you're going to have bad events sometimes, and you just kind of have to put them in the rearview mirror. The real deal is to try not to have really bad events. And now, granted, I think I finished like 117th or something like that at Toledo. And it was a terrible event in my mind. And it was a terrible event anyway. But I still didn't finish 200th or 180th. And there's a lot of extra points that I made up in that particular event. Now, had I fished just a tiny bit different, it would have probably been a little bit better. But, that's just hindsight. And we're going to move on to Bugs Island, and hopefully we'll make up some points this week.
It is. We are at Bugs Island, like I said, this week. We'll talk a little bit about the tournament. We still have another day of practice, and then the tournament is actually a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday tournament this week. So with these live shows, we're going to kind of touch on it, but really not kind of get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. I want to get into it with you to start things out, to talk a little bit about, we had a big weekend in professional bass fishing. We had Luke Palmer just destroy everybody at Santee Cooper, and then we had Alton Jones Jr. just destroy everybody at Bussy Break and the other
Caney
Creek.
Yeah.
in the MLF heavy hitters. And then in the second half of the show, I like to bring on guys who are kind of behind the scenes in the industry. One of the other guys that's rooming, or the only other guy that's rooming with me and Andrew this year, Joe LaBarbera. He's from Pennsylvania, basically New York. You'll think New York when you come on if you haven't heard him talk before. But Joe had a career before this, kind of got into the industry, also is fishing all 9 of the opens, but also makes his living with social media, doing things in the industry. So we'll get him on in the second half to kind of talk about that and break it in. But first of all, let's dive into the Elite Series. Luke Palmer absolutely smashed them on let me pull up the stats here.
At Santee.
Yeah, at Santee Cooper. I think he had like 95, 96 pounds. If you look at the Open Pros Pick'em, you were the one who actually thought that it would be heavy weights like this. And it wasn't throughout the entire field. There were a lot of guys that struggled in this event. But
you look at that particular tournament, and I felt like there'd be one angler. I didn't know who the angler would be, but I felt like there'd be one angler that really just blew it out. And obviously Luke just absolutely crushed on him. But I mean, if you look at second place, I just want you to look at second place for a minute. Mark Menendez came in and he had a second day 9-pound day. I think, what was it? 9 pounds.
Yeah, we pull it up here.
Yeah, we're gonna look at the actual results here. But I think he had like 4 fish for 9 pounds.
Yeah, he had like less than 10 pounds.
And I mean, and he averaged over like 20. He had like a 28-pound day and like a 23 and a 22-pound day, if I remember correctly. And lost by 14. And I know that sounds like a lot, but if he'd have just stayed with his average, it'd have been a 2-horse race for sure. So it's just really interesting that 2 guys really just wrecked him as good as they did. They were catching a lot of big ones.
Yeah, they were. Had Luke Palmer on the show last month, and he's a really quiet, reserved guy when you interview him. Did not know that he had that kind of fire and intensity in him when he was catching those fish, those 5 and 6 pounders. It was really cool to watch him on Bassmaster Live get so jacked up, and then know towards the end of the final day on the replays that I've gone back and watched that he had the thing in the bag and that he was going to win his first blue trophy. You want to talk about a blue collar guy that came up through Oklahoma, did really well in Oklahoma, came up through the Open, still works at the hardware store that his family owns, farms, and then is in the hardware store, goes and practices, drives home, and he's back working too. Yeah. So really cool to see him get the $100,000 and the blue trophy, and really add to a long list of Elite Series anglers from Oklahoma who have won blue trophies.
No doubt.
And if you look at his consistency, I think he's something like he's missed 6 checks his entire career.
That's pretty incredible.
Which is absolutely incredible. So you look, right now he currently is the most consistent angler on the Elite Series when it comes to $10,000 checks to top 50 finishes. Actually missed one earlier this year, but rebounded nicely with a first place finish.
I mean, if you're going to miss one, you come back and win. That's what really matters. So
it was impressive. Also, guys who we expected to show out in this tournament who did. You had Drew Cook, sight fishing. He did good the last time they were there. Brandon Cobb, South Carolina. Now, I did not realize that he is not familiar with Santee Cooper. He's only fished 2 events on Santee Cooper his entire life.
I did not. But he, obviously, though, I will say this. He did his homework because I watched some of the Bassmaster Live, and he was very, very dialed in. And it was pretty incredible to watch him break down those trees, the cypress trees, and how he was doing it. It was pretty cool.
Now, I've only been on Santee Cooper to cover a tournament. It's, I would venture to say, in the country, one of the top 5 most intimidating fisheries to go to if you haven't been there before. As far as intimidating fisheries, if we're going to list that, if you haven't been there before, Toledo Bend's got to be at the top of the list.
It's probably up there.
Yes, it's at the top of the list. Yeah, you grew up there. You don't understand what it's like.
The best advice I give literally anybody that's never been there is to find literally 2 creeks on the lake and just learn 2 creeks and don't go anywhere else because there's plenty of fish in those 2 creeks. And if you do that, you're going to have more success. But when you try to cover too much water, that's when you get in a problem there.
Shockingly, and I don't know if he wants me to say this, but I'm going to say it. Justin Lucas, I was talking to him after that. He finds Toledo Bend intimidating.
Really?
Out of all the difference, he's like, dude, I've never been able to figure that place out. It's so big. It's so intimidating.
Yeah.
I would put that up there. Another one would be Seminole.
Yeah.
Seminole is an intimidating fishery.
See, I like Seminole, but it reminds me a lot of Toledo Bend.
Okay,
so I'll tell you one that is kind of intimidating. At least my first time there was Lake Erie, and because it is so vast. You're talking big runs, and honestly, it's probably, at least for me, and when I've been there, and I'm not talking Eastern Shore like Erie, Pennsylvania, but I'm talking like western side of Erie. It's actually, you don't just go out there and blast them all the time like you would at like St. Clair, Huron, Ontario, some of these others. So it's a little bit more of a grind, a smallmouth place, and it's just really hard to dial it in. It changes all the time. The guys like Pipkins that just stay on them over there, it's just incredible.
Yeah, I would definitely put Erie up there, and then if we're gonna round it out, I think the Red River. You have to look at it. You're a seasoned professional angler, Andrew. I think you have to look at it from
but I wouldn't put
You've got
rivers.
locks,
But you've got rivers.
Locks. You've got wing dams. You've got current. You've got hyacinth. You've got backwaters that are hard to access. Think about some of those areas, like where me and you were fishing. Yeah. Like, that was the first time that I had done something.
I ran in there.
No, you didn't.
I ran about halfway in there.
Halfway, you couldn't run at all. But I went in the drink once that week.
Yeah. That was hilarious.
That's an intimidating place. You don't get back there unless you know where you're going.
It is intimidating from the standpoint of you're bumping stumps the whole time. There's no comfortability. Like, you can't just get on the trolling motor and go. You're just going to be hitting trees the whole time. And it makes you slow down. It makes you a lot more cautious. And I honestly, I would agree with you there. There's just so much water there for sure.
Anywhere else? I'm trying to think.
I remember back in the day, Kentucky Lake was kind of intimidating because it was
just because of how big and
massive
it was.
Because you'd always hear those guys saying, "Well, you got to go to New Johnsonville," and then they'd say, "Well, you got to go up to the north of the dam." Well, that was forever, a huge amount of area to go up. And so it was always like, man, do I graph up here? Do I graph down there? And trying to find the right area of the lake was always pretty difficult. At least in the years that I fished FLW, we fished tour events there. And I had one great tournament there. I finished top 10 there once, and it's still one of those places that when I look at it, I'm like, oh gosh, here we go again. So
I thought before I went there, just watching the tournament coverage from James River events, that was a very intimidating fishery. And then once I got there, there are some places that I have definitely avoided. What is it? The appendix? The Appomattox. The Appomattox. There's some certain things that I have avoided there when we've been there the last 2 times, but as a whole, I thought that it was a very pleasant fishing experience on the James, and I think it has a reputation of being. It can be treacherous because you have the tides, you get stuck, you have like barges and metal and all sorts of stuff.
It's a different place, but I like rivers. I've done Welt Rivers, James River, Potomac, Red River, just current flow, just works. I really like tidal places. I've always done well, except Chesapeake. Actually, I would say Chesapeake Bay is right up there with intimidating.
Yeah,
at least for me.
I would agree. 100%. Yeah. You take out of that thing and you're just like, boom, there's the bay. Yeah. And then I remember that first morning I was running somewhere stupid that I shouldn't have been running. I was going to go like 120 miles one way.
Yeah.
And I ate a wave and it was saltwater.
Yeah.
And I was like, I am so out of my element right now. And I looked at my co-angler and I said, we're going to dip in here. We're going to regroup and we're going to drive 30 miles right back where we came from. And he goes, thank God. that was all he said because he was from there. I said, I don't think we'd have made it. He goes, son, it had just gotten worse and worse. He goes, I was praying. But here's what I also learned. There were a couple of us that were going to make that run. One of them, Kurt Dove, who's a captain, guide down there on Lake Amistad. He knew that based on the way that the wind and the current was stacking up, that if he ran the opposite side because it was shallower, the channel wasn't pushing as much. And he's like, yeah, I shot it. He goes, it was a little rough, but he made the run. And there is no way. There were like 15 of us that turned around.
Yeah. And actually, I learned that lesson at Pickwick one time. They were ripping current hard. The water was up and the wind was blowing opposite direction of the current. It was stacking waves out in the middle. And now, granted, we had to run some pretty sketchy stuff near the bank, but if you ran that sketchy stuff, you were in a third of the size of waves that you would have been out in the middle. And it's really smart to pay attention to current, direction of wind, and there's always going to be a place that you can run that will not beat you up as bad, always. And it doesn't matter what direction it's going, there's always a way to do it.
That's good stuff. I was talking about intimidation, kind of bring it back full circle to Santee Cooper, because we had Bryant Smith and David Gaston both their first time. Now I would imagine that would have to have been Bryant Smith's first time at Santee, being from California. I would imagine maybe David Gaston. I think he's an Alabama guy, so maybe he'd been there before in some events. I don't know, but 2 rookies in the top 12, which is pretty impressive on an event like Santee.
Yeah, and you know, to see a guy like Paul Mueller up there too, watching
he
him
needed it too.
Yeah, he needed it, and but he was catching them his way, and I was impressed with that. I mean, he was Nico rigging around using his forward facing sonar, and you know, that's just the way he likes to fish, and so more power to him for figuring that out, because I don't think as many people did. And Polnick was forward facing; he was using his forward facing sonar.
He was doing a little glide and jerk bait and stuff.
Yeah.
All right, on the MLF side, heavy hitters going on. Alton Jones Jr. He fished a number of years. I was actually watching before I left. I was watching an old Bassmaster on YouTube, and Alton Jr. was on stage, and he was maybe 7 years old. And Alton was holding the 2, and Fishburne was talking to Alton Jr., and it was crazy. He gets the heavy hitter win, 100,000. Second win in the last 3 years. He won on Fork. Was that last year that he won on Fork? I think it was last year that he won on Fork, wasn't it?
I don't remember. I remember him getting another win.
So $200,000 for that. Brian Thrift adds another $100,000, catches 1 fish on the final day, and he's still at it. Dakota Eber, second place finish in heavy hitters, $50K, $25,000 in the first couple rounds. He's kind of from your neck of the woods a little bit, isn't he?
Yeah, you know, I actually talked to Dakota at the Classic this year, and you know, it's hard to catch up with all these guys until you get to a place like that. And I had to congratulate him. I was like, dude, you're just killing it. Like, I don't know what the heck you're doing, but you know, he just keep going and keep winning, and just gave him all the best from us. But I mean, he's definitely just killing it, man. But a funny story about Alton Jr. I used to fish Bass Champs, which is a little local trail.
It's not a little local trail.
It's a big local trail.
It's a big regional trail.
It is. And Alton Jr. used to fish, and I'd see him at like Amistad and some of those others, because I used to fish the South Division even though I was in the East. And I used to talk to Little Alton all the time.
That's what everyone calls him.
Yeah, and
I mean, call him.
And I mean, he's not little anymore, but he was smoking them back then, dude. Like, there was absolute no surprise whenever he started doing as well as he was fishing MLF and some of that stuff. There was no shock to me whatsoever. I mean, I knew he was going to crush them.
Yeah.
So
he's part of that group of kids that are no longer kids. Like, you look at the Howells, the Robinsons, the Lanes.
Yeah, the Lanes, yeah.
Britt Myers kid. Britt Myers Jr., I believe.
Yeah.
Alton.
There's another one, too.
Rambanis.
Yeah, Rambanis' kid is coming up. He's pretty dang good.
Browning.
Yeah. Yeah, he already said radio.
Yeah, that's insane.
And then what, like Trey Swindle? I know that's not a son, but, you know,
Uncle,
I mean. Yeah, Uncle.
And he would have won it open last year.
Yeah, I mean, just craziness.
Yeah. Let's talk just a hair about what we got going on this week. This is our 3rd practice day. We have a half day tomorrow before things kick off on Wednesday. Full field fish Wednesday, Thursday, top 10 on Friday. I don't think I have ever been a part of a tournament with such drastic weather changes day to day.
Yeah, it's to Matt's point, we're dealing, you know, when we got here, the lake was steadily dropping. It was drop. I think it dropped over a foot or almost a foot in about a 5-day, 6-day time frame. And just in the last 3 days, it's come back up almost 2 foot.
It dropped a little today, didn't it?
No, it's still going up.
It's still going up?
It's still
then why
going
was
up.
there a ring on the trees?
Yeah. I don't know. It's probably because it
maybe
blew
it
like
was
25 miles an
yeah,
hour.
That probably had something to do.
But yeah, the water's still coming up. It's almost 2 foot high now. So just in that short amount of time, I was actually part of an event that was far worse than this. Beaver Lake, Arkansas FLW Tour. I can't remember if it was 18 or 19. It was the one Johnny McCombs won.
Oh, I remember that with the buzz bait.
Yes. So practice, like I think it was like Tuesday, and I was sight fishing, and I had the best practice I'd ever had on beaver. Like I knew I was going to win it. Like dead set. I'd made a top 10 the year before sight fishing, and I'd figured out what I did wrong, and I was like, I'm winning this one. Like, and I was on them. It started raining that night, and it rained all day or all night, all day the next day, and the lake came up. I don't even remember. It was like 8 feet or something. It was something absolutely ridiculous. And I mean, everybody was like, what are we going to do? Like, I mean, because like, are they going to cancel it? Because it was all up in the parking lot.
That's where Matt Airy did, wasn't, one of those guys said that they were catching fish off of a picnic bench that someone was eating on during practice when they fished the area.
I'm telling you.
They were like 2 days ago, someone was eating lunch on that picnic table, and I just caught a fish off of it.
And I don't want to be wrong. I say 8 feet. It could have been like 12 feet. I mean, it was something absolutely just so ridiculous. To the point where we were all like, all the anglers were sitting there saying,
how are we going to
like,
fish?
what are we going to do? Like, I mean, basically practice was a complete wash, and I stumbled across the most amazing shad spawn ever.
When it was coming up?
Yeah.
Really?
Like the first day of tournament.
They went up with the water
just went, dude, it was incredible. And I lost so many that first day.
On a blade?
No, on a dang topwater.
Oh.
And Jason Reyes and I were staying together at the time, and he'd blasted them on day one. And so on day two, like I caught some, and I get back in, and like we're getting ready to weigh, and I'm like, dude, I got a spot you need to go check out. Like if you make it. And I gave it to him, and he ended up making the final day, like just crushed on him. And it was a little saddle on an island, but it was never an actual saddle on an island underwater typically.
It was dry?
It was dry, always. But there was a spot between two bushes.
It's amazing to me how in tune, I don't think sometimes I give or we give enough credit to how in tune the fish are with their environment.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like how quickly they move up, how quickly they pull out, how they know, like, how does a fish know where it can spawn and the water's not going to just drop and they're going to go dry? Or do you think that happens? Do you think there's tons of beds where the fish is like, well, that was a mistake?
Well, no, that does happen.
It does?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you this from just the first day of practice here. You know, the water had dropped about over a foot, maybe a little more. And I saw beds on the bank, like literally on the bank. And no fish on them, obviously, because it was out of water. Because there'd been fish out of water. But yeah, I mean, there was no fish on them. And now, like, I wonder personally, like, I went out looking at some of where I remembered seeing some of those beds that were on the bank, saying, well, I wonder if that fish is going to pull back up there, because the water literally just dropped out. So there's a lot of opportunity for that fish to roll back up the same bed. It's kind of weird how that kind of stuff works.
That's like that on the James. I remember I drew a co-angler one day, and he's like, see that? And I was like, yeah. And it's way up on a cypress tree. He goes, that's a bed. And I'm like, why? And he goes, that's a bed. It stays moist. The eggs stay there. See how the shell and blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, where's the female? He goes, she's like out here somewhere.
Yeah, just swimming around.
She's like right out in front here somewhere.
Yeah.
He's like, you can't catch it now. He goes, but on high tide, he goes, if you get high tide tomorrow, he goes, you can come back and you can catch that fish.
That's awesome.
And I was like, really? And he said, yeah. I said it was the whole thing. So then I ended up going up into these cypress trees that literally were dry 2 hours before, and they move right up with them. Yeah. I mean, because there's so
that's why I like that place, though. It's so much fun.
All right. Like I said, we got Joe LaBarbera. He's going to come on here in a second to talk about. I did want to mention before I let you go, though, that you are a source of massive anxiety. Like,
why is that?
Prior to leaving for Toledo Bend, you host Let's Fish TV now.
Oh yeah.
This is a true story.
Yeah.
This is way more stressful. Shooting, so Zona, Mercer, any of those guys. I don't think people understand how much stress there is involved with shooting a TV show. It's yours now too. I mean, like this is the first full year that you're in control of the whole thing, right?
Yeah. No, it's mine 100%. And it is the single most stressful thing that I've done in the bass fishing industry. Like winning tournaments, doing all that, it's nothing even touches it.
How did that come about to where you ended up owning and hosting a national TV show? Like, if you want to get into that, I'm curious as to how, because people are always like, well, how do you end up doing a fishing podcast?
Yeah. I mean, I got really lucky where I worked before. We actually sponsored Barry's show, Gene LaRue.
Which was the Southwest.
Yes, the Southwest
Sports,
Outdoor, or
Sports
no, Fox Sports Outdoors.
Yep. Okay.
And they saw the writing on the wall that Fox Sports was going to sell to Bally, so we went ahead and changed it. Or Barry Stokes, the original owner, changed the name of the show to Let's Fish TV to kind of compound that before it changed. But I started hosting some shows, guest hosting some shows about 4 or 5 years ago.
Just for Barry?
Yeah, just for Barry.
Okay.
It'd be like 1 or 2, like what you're doing right now. Like 1 or 2 shows, do 1 or 2 shows, and then it went to like 4 or 5 shows, then went to 4 or 5 shows, and then last year I shot 50% of the shows, and then now we're here, and I'm running the TV show. So
you're at ICAST dressed up, getting sponsorship for the show for the year, and then you shoot how many every year?
39.
39.
Yeah.
So you shoot what, like 30 of them? And
I
give a couple to Todd.
Yeah, I end up shooting about 28 when it's all said and done. And I've had you shoot 2. I've had Todd shoot now 3. No, 2. He shot 2 this year.
Hallman shot a couple.
Hallman's got 1 coming up, and then I have a catfish guy that shoots 2, and then I've got a saltwater guy out in the eastern part of the world, Inglis Glover, which does an absolute fantastic job out there. So, I mean, I've got some, and then we have all our reporters. The cool thing about Let's Fish TV is it's actually real-time fishing reports from your local region, and, you can figure out what's going on. Matt's one of our
I was supposed to do one today.
You probably were. Way to go.
Can we do that after the show?
No. Yes. No. I mean, we'll do it tomorrow. It's no big deal.
I think he said he needed it today.
Way to go. But yeah, so now, Garrett, I'm sorry that Matt.
He texted me and it was blowing 30 miles an hour.
I mean, I get that. But no, I mean, we do have fishing reports from your area. Matt does a really great job. I've got a lot of other great reporters out there. But, it takes a team effort. I've got a fantastic social media director. I've got a fantastic editor and great reporters, great guest host with Matt and Todd and Hallman. And it takes a huge home front, great support at home from my wife, my family. I honestly couldn't do all this without my wife. She's really helped kind of control some stuff. And so, yeah.
Stress-wise, though, it's a whole different level than tournament fishing because I shot one on Skyatook. Can I go a little behind the scenes on the Skyatook episode or not?
Yeah.
So I shot one at Skyatook, and it was originally the plan was to do a hybrid or a white bass show because you try to mix up the different species, which I really like. But obviously, it doesn't always go as planned. And Andrew gives you kind of some credit. He wants it, there's a loose script, but educational.
Yeah.
Obviously, like the 3 E's for Bass Talk Live are educate, entertain, and engage. Those 3 also apply to a TV show,
absolutely.
But also quality content. So, I mean, I kind of called him and was like, hey, man, what do you think of this smallmouth show? And you're like, can we make that happen? Like smallmouth in Oklahoma? I was like, yeah. So you're like, go for it. So, you have a camera guy who's really freaking good. Jared Christmas.
Yeah, C4 Media Productions.
Jared Christmas is the man. Yeah. But he drove 7 hours up. I was leaving the following day for the Bassmaster Open on Toledo Bend.
Yep.
This thing aired 2 weeks later.
Yep.
You're thousands of dollars in just to get to the filming part. Then there's another person who edits it. Then it's going to be on Bally's, 2 different Bally's.
Actually, we've expanded significantly. We're at Bally Sports Southwest, Bally Sports Southeast, Bally Sports Florida.
Oh, wow.
And Sportsman's Channel.
Okay.
So, and Waypoint TV and all the other streaming platforms.
So it's going out on all this.
Oh, yeah.
And we have 0 content, and it's 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks. Now, some of them I think are a little bit more in advance, but some of the timely ones you can't. You have to shoot it because it's an educational show with fishing reports for what's going on.
You don't want to shoot. I don't want to shoot a spawn. I'm catching fish off beds and air it in the fall.
Yeah.
What are people going to learn and be able to take to their local lake and try to be better at it? So, that was one of the big tasks I put on Matt. I was like, hey, buddy, I need you to go shoot this. He had found some white bass, but they didn't, and hybrids, but they didn't really play. And he caught, you caught a big smallmouth, didn't you?
The good one.
A good one.
Yeah.
But, and he was like, can we do this? I'm like, yes.
Dude, that is so much more pressure because you have to get it done.
Yeah, 100%.
And you do that on a weekly basis then. Do you think it helps your tournament fishing, filming TV shows?
Yeah, it
or
definitely
does it hurt
does.
it because it's harder to focus on both?
It's hard to focus on both, but I'm going to tell you, it definitely – honestly, if I could equate it to anything, I'd say it's probably kind of like that Major League Fishing stuff, how they, at least before when they were doing like every catch counts and like you're just against the clock, what's going on. It's really similar, like, because you're stressing out. Because the reality is, it's just like you. I think you'd gone on the lake maybe a half a day before. A lot of times I just show up and go film, and I'll give myself 24 hours to film it. And that's just what it is. So, I'm showing up to brand new bodies of water sometimes and filming shows like Jordan this year, Eagle Lake. Gulf Shores. I shot 2 shows down there 2 weeks ago. It's just really hard work. It's a lot of work.
Like I said, if you want to check out that episode that aired or anything else,
you can find everything on. Yeah, every time an episode airs, we post it on YouTube after. So if you missed the airing, you forgot to hit record on your DVR, you can go watch it on YouTube at Let's Fish on YouTube. So, or Let's Fish TV.
Yeah,
and y'all go check it out, and it really would be awesome if y'all subscribe.
All right.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, how you feeling about this derby here?
Win or bust, buddy.
Win or bust.
Win or bust.
You're not points in it?
No.
We hadn't really had that talk yet.
No, the reality is in this situation, I dug myself a little bit of a hole, and I'm going to try to win every tournament from now on.
Yeah.
Why not?
I think I'm going to points fish for another one.
Nope. I'm going to win.
Obviously, try to win,
I'm going to win, or try to at least. So.
Val's calling. You better take that. All right. Hey, we're going to take a break. When we come back, Joe LaBarbera talking about how he got into the bass fishing industry and his foray into the open so far. So it is BTL at night. Andrew wasn't kidding. His wife was calling. He's like, I'm out of here. We'll be back right after this.
The new Puma STS has been redesigned from the ground up. With the angler, design, function, and performance in mind, nothing on this new offering was compromised, and the only thing carried over from the previous version is the name. Based on the Soft Touch series hull that started with the flagship Jaguar, this new model is nimble and performs incredibly well at all speeds with either a 250 or 300 horsepower engine. Featuring a new 96-inch wide-body footprint, this hull measures out at 20 foot 7 inches in length. Industry-leading design coupled with tournament-winning performance. The Puma STS from Basscat. Feel the rush.
Everything you need, one legendary brand. Top one on Strike King.
So I'm a big guy, a lunker, a 2 sandwich eating kind of man. And on behalf of all of those bigger, I gotta say it once and for all, it's bad enough that the fish look smaller in our hands. The last thing we should have to worry about is getting quality outdoor clothing that fits. Avco, any fish, any water.
Elite Series Pro Daryl Gleason here. My Pro Guide batteries keep me going on those long tournament days and long practice days. Always plenty of juice, never fail. The best part about Pro Guide batteries, it's the people behind the company. They have over 40 years experience in the battery business, keeping all of us fishermen out on the water longer, catching more fish. Check them out at ProGuideBatteries.com.
What's up, Bass Talk Live fans? Brandon Polnick here. And ever since I won a couple Bassmaster Elite Series events on X-Zone Lures, I've been getting a bunch of questions of what makes them so special and different. And really, the truth is, it's in the details. The little details, things like no cheap fillers in their plastic. That gives you more lifelike action, more realistic and vibrant colors. But don't just take my word for it. Go to www.xzonelures.com and check them out.
The great thing about the new Sensation soft plastics from Big Bite Baits, heavily scented, super soft, buoyant, comes in 7 great new shapes. I've got a couple of them of my signature series, the cliffhanger worm and the ramtail craw. Great for a flipping jig, football jig, swim jig, all that. Several other great shapes. Really excited about it. We've worked over the last year, catches fish all over the country, and I think it's going to catch fish for people everywhere you try it.
The Spro Little John crankbait has been around for almost 15 years, and it is one of my go-to crankbaits whenever I need a fish in the boat, so you can never have enough new colors. That's why Spro's coming out with a handful of new colors, including Pearl Shad, which has this bleached out white look, but it's got this pearlescent, really pretty. We've got Copper Shad, which looks amazing in the water. It's got that purple flake on the back, really pops in the water. And then if you want some real pop, we've got Sparkle Shad, nothing but sparkles all over this thing. And then last but not least, we've got the matte Sexy Shad, just a really different looking color for a crankbait. So you want to give them a little different look, that matte Sexy Shad is definitely the one to go with. All these colors are available in the original Little John and the MD.
Welcome back. BTL, I don't even know what day of the week it is. What day of the week is it, Joe?
Tuesday? Is it?
No, it's Monday. No, it is. No, because
it's Monday. Yeah, it is Monday.
BTL on a Monday night, and I am now joined by Joe LaBarbera. He is the third person in our group. We actually, for this event, none of us took it upon ourselves to find housing, so we all three rolled in, and I didn't practice for a day. I didn't start until Sunday, but we all rolled in without anywhere to stay. So we ended up in a king suite at the Clarion that has one king size bed. I found it and made the reservation, so I got the king size bed. Andrew's on the pullout, and then Joe went and got a blow up mattress, and then like in the activities room, he's sleeping on that. So we got
all right though. But in our defense, I got the first one. And Toledo Bend, you booked that one. I think it was somebody else's turn.
Well, Andrew stayed at his house at Toledo Bend.
Yeah.
But we're staying at my house at
Eufaula.
At Eufaula. So, what are your thoughts so far after 2.5 days on bugs?
Well, I got here a day before you, so I did fish on Friday. You didn't fish on Friday.
Correct.
But I didn't go fishing yesterday because I didn't want to put myself through that. I don't know. I like the fishery. It's not like you guys were talking about intimidating fisheries. This time of the year, where we're at with this one, I mean, there is a lot of fishable water. I mean, a lot.
And you can, if you see it, you can run to it.
You can,
unless it's in the mean you don't want to cut a shoal off.
But. Yeah. So I mean, I like the fishery because it's very fishable, but for the first day, just driving around, it seemed like, oh, I want to fish that. I want to fish this. I want to fish this. And it was a lot. But I mean, it's starting to come together. I wish there were some bigger fish in this place. But, I wish it was Toledo.
I think a 6-pounder is really big here.
Yeah. So traveling for the Opens the last couple of years, the James isn't that far away. I think the Chickahominy 2 hours from here because I have friends in Wilmington. I mean, they said they've seen 1 or 2 sevens in the last 5 years.
And well, the James has 10s, but I guess they got pure Floridas.
They're
there.
pure Floridas. Yeah.
Anyway, wanted to get you on to talk about. We have a lot of interesting people on BTO, whether it be writers and outdoor enthusiasts like Pete Robbins, historians like Ken Duke, like we just had Andrew on with his TV show. Gene Gilliland. But I always find it interesting to hear the paths of how people ended up doing what they're doing in the industry, because there's not really like a school to go to get into the professional fishing industry. And just explain a little bit about what you do, and then we'll kind of get into how you ended there, because you were a teacher.
Yeah.
For like with kids.
Oh yeah. Well, so where I'm at now, I guess I'm kind of a content creator, social media influencer, but I do like consulting for like some brands. I work for some other industry professionals, like as a subcontractor, like mainly focused on like social media marketing and content creation.
Yeah.
That's just kind of like where my niche fell. And it was it's kind of cool how I got there, but it wasn't like it's been like an up and down weird zigzag to like get to that point, you know?
What did you teach?
So I actually taught elementary school kids. I taught drug and alcohol prevention, basically the DARE program for like, for like over 5 years.
And just wanted something that was more fulfilled, like, or wanted some, like what was the transition there? Because I think that's where a lot of people are like, man, I'd love to get into it. I've got a job. I've got the benefits of it.
So it really started before I took that job. I started fishing like club tournaments, BFLs. Like I'm pretty new to this. Like I didn't fish my first like Wednesday nighter till 2016. I fished BFLs in 2017. And while I was doing that, I actually coached American Ninja Warrior for like a gymnastics gym. And
you got paid to coach American Ninja Warrior?
Yeah, I like wrote the curriculum and like, it was cool. About, teaching kids to do like flips off the walls and stuff. So I have a phys ed and health like dual degree. Like that's
I did not know that.
Yeah, that's what I went to college for. So I was doing that because I didn't really want to work for like the public school system. So I found cool jobs where I could be like a phys ed teacher. And so I did that for a while I started fishing derbs, and I kind of really got into like the social media kick. Like Instagram was starting to pop off, and YouTube was rolling good, and I just kind of wanted to get into that stuff. And my very first sponsor was a rod company, very small, like direct to consumer rod company. And their owner then started fishing the MPFL.
Okay.
So he was like, he asked his wife, of all people, like, who on the team do you think could run social media while I'm gone fishing these 6 tournaments next year and having to do other things, since he couldn't run social anymore? And his wife was like, easy, Joe. And he's like, yeah, you're right. I didn't really think of it, but now that you say it, like, it's a no-brainer. And he asked me to do it. And I ended up doing it for like 6 months straight for him. And then he took it over in the winter. And then I did it again for him last year, like 3/4 of the year. And now we kind of like split responsibilities running it. And it opened up other doors. Like I've run social media for a bunch of brands and entities in the industry now, just kind of out of like just my joy of doing it for myself in the beginning, and kind of like reading articles and trying to keep up to date. And
so what's the end goal? I don't think I've ever asked you that. We've only known each other for like about a year.
Yeah, like when we roomed together with Kurt at Kurt's camp is when
Kurt does Pro Bass Camp.
Which is
coming up.
July.
Well, he's doing 2 back-to-back on Amistad.
Are you doing those?
No.
But
I am going to do the
New York
Pro Bass Camp up at New York at Oneida.
This is like the
12th or 13th year. We've had Kurt on before to talk about that.
I think it's year 10.
Yeah.
I think it's like year 6 or 5 in New York, and like I think this will be year 10 at Amistad.
But you're a northern guy.
Yeah.
Through and through.
Oh, for sure.
What has been the most difficult thing for you as a northern angler who understands the smallmouth and the grass and what goes on in those natural New York lakes and the Great Lakes and
Mhm.
smallmouth predominantly, what has been the biggest challenge and the biggest learning curve coming south?
Well, we still haven't got outside of the post-spawn time of the year. And I knew this would be the hardest time of the year for me because we don't have shad spawn, herring spawn. We don't get that. Like it happens maybe a tiny bit at the Potomac, a tiny bit at the Chesapeake, even less than the Potomac. But it's not like a predominant thing in any of the 5 Northeast BFLs, in any of the 3 Northern Opens when it used to be the Northerns before they changed it to the divisions. It's not something I get to experience much of. So like I think I'll do better at tough tournaments like Watts Bar in September than a tough tournament like maybe this one or Eufaula, the first one, because I just that forage base and how that affects, you know, fish's feeding process right now is just so unfamiliar to
So
me.
more so it's not the fisheries that look different or different types of cover, vegetation, forage, or flow on the fishery. It's the forage base that's the hardest thing for
without a
you
doubt.
to translate from the north to south.
Without a doubt. Yeah. That and like we use a lot lighter equipment up north than you guys do. Like, I mean, I had to spool up. Like, I'm a big like braid to fluoro guy when I'm like flipping, and I like pulled up to a set of bushes the other day, and I was like, just started ripping braid off a rod. I made like 2 pitches into a bush, and I was like, if I make a 4th pitch, I'm just gonna. It just doesn't work. So I quick stripped a ton of line off in the middle of the boat and just like winding 22-pound test on because I knew I was gonna have to at some point. So, like, just kind of the setups are a little bit different. I mean, I'm blessed to be doing it. I'm not at all like. I have those frustrated moments where I'm like, man, I'm like Brian New, like, don't suck. I don't want to suck. But at the same time too, I knew there would be challenges like this right now, so it's not super surprising to me. Like, I'm just happy to be here for sure.
What's the biggest overall challenge right now?
Trying to keep
Travel,
up with
money, job.
You know,
there's all
I mean,
sorts
there's
of
a
things.
lot.
I know you could say it.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, really, I'm like pretty easygoing.
Yeah.
So like those things are pretty easy for. Like, I'm 37.
Yeah.
Like you, me, and Andrew are all the same age. Like, I didn't quit my job back in May to do this like social media content creator full-time in the industry thing without a plan to like have enough money, make sure my credit cards don't like go overdue. I don't want to like have to sell my home. Like, I keep my mortgage paid. Like,
You have a cool house too.
yeah, thanks, brother.
How old is it? 100 years?
109.
Like, you walk into Joe's house and it's like a historic house. It's nice inside. And you like walk into the kitchen and it's like a normal kitchen. And then you take a ride into the living room and there's like 2 trophy cases and it's just like high-end tackle like in the box and stuff. And then you like look up and the whole ceiling is rods. Then there's like a whole wall of baits. And then he's got like 2 columns of like Rubbermaid tubs, and every single plastic is like organized, categorized by color, alphabetical, and there's like thousands of bags. And then you go into like the second living room and it's like his swim bait room, and he's got all of the swim baits like hanging perfectly on racks. It's insane.
It's a fishing bachelor pad.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And where are you? Punxsutawney, Florida? Or no, not Florida.
It's Northeast Pennsylvania.
Northeast Pennsylvania.
It's like,
I mean, but what's in
so Scranton? Well, Punxsutawney's the what's the holiday with the
groundhog?
The groundhog holiday.
Isn't that where it is?
No,
it's got a name, something like that. What?
Well, Punxsutawney's just on the other side of the state.
Okay.
But yeah, it's Pennsylvania. I guess that's what we're known for. But I actually live close to Scranton, where the office is like based out of. You know, supposedly. But people ask me all the time. They're like, so that's where the office is filmed. I'm like, no, the office is filmed in Hollywood, bro. Like, but yeah, I guess I shot some stills there.
final thoughts before we wrap up tonight on this derby that we're going to on bugs. I'm thinking 12 to 13 a day to cash a check.
I mean, you're the stats guy. I think from
Well, no, I mean, this is me fishing it. This has nothing to do with stats. This is on gut feel after a couple days of practice.
You're not usually wrong, though. I mean, because you studied so much history on every single fishery everywhere.
Yeah, but this is kind of a wild card, especially with the weather and the wind that we have in and the rising water and the fact that we haven't been here since like 1989 when Randy Blockett won like on a jig.
I mean, I thought Toledo was going to be higher than you guessed. I think this one, I mean, my just gut feeling is that it'll be a little lower. Like, I think it'll be a lot like fishing a smallmouth derby on like Champlain, like any non-Great Lake body of water where it's very tight between the top 10 and like 85th place. I mean, it's going to be tight.
I think there's a lot of 2-pounders in this. I think there's a lot of 2 to 4.5 pounders in this lake. It's a really good lake. It's a really cool fishery. Reminds me of like a combination of like 5 or 6 different fisheries squashed together.
Yeah.
Like it's got a little bit of like Grand Fort Gibson feel, but it's also got like a little bit of Hartwell feel to it.
I've been to Hartwell.
It's got a little bit of a northern lake, but then it's also got a little bit of like a Neely Henry. It's a real weird combination. It's got some spots, but the spots, there's not very many big spots in here to play. You can finesse them here. Like you can actually do well finesse fishing them here. You can power fish them here. You can run up rivers. You can fish bridges. There's some floating docks. There's
some floating debris you're going to be able to flip soon.
There's some a little bit of submerged timber and stumps. There's a lot of bushes in the water. You have a lot of hardwoods. You have willows. You can flip willows, sweet gum. Yeah, there's not a stitch of grass in the thing. I think I've caught.
Did you see a lily pad? There's no lily pad.
No, there's
either.
no grass. It's amazing. But there is a bunch of different type of rock, gravel, sand, transition
clay,
banks. It goes from 6 inches to a foot of visibility way up north, all the way down to like 5 or 6 foot of visibility down by down south.
Yeah, like Nutbush.
A lot of cool stuff at play at this lake. I was fishing with Jonathan. He's fishing as a co-angler today, and he just goes, "Dude, now do you see why David Dudley's so good?" And he mentioned he talked about that, and it's like, yeah, he's got that and all sorts of stuff around that Virginia. But dude, this lake has like everything in one minus the grass and the tide.
I mean, I think we up north, a lot of us like Paul Mueller, some other just like local hammers and stuff. We always talk about the diversity in our fisheries. Like you can drive 2 hours in any direction and get to like very diverse fisheries that are good training, like great training grounds. All those guys from like California, like Justin Lucas, Mark Daniels Jr., they all moved to Gunnersville because you can like catch them any way down there. I think this spot in the country is another very, very diverse place to train. So yeah, I mean, I get that David Dudley comment for sure. Anybody from very northern North Carolina or Southern Virginia.
All right, if you're watching live, the Devils Rangers Game 7's going on. You're a hockey guy. I'm a hockey guy. We had 2 Game 7s last night. We get a Game 7 tonight. We're going to catch the last couple periods of that, or last period of that. It should still be going on, right?
Oh, for sure.
Don't anyone give
the guys were telling me the score while you guys
there
were
is
filming.
A score.
Well, no, they were updating.
Oh, I guess there is a score. 0-0 is a score.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows what?
Yeah, Jim, or I think it was Jim or Paul.
But you were a hockey player.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah. Well, there's not many other guys.
I got a fake one.
Do you really?
Oh yeah.
I got a fake 7.
I got 2 veneers and a bridge. Yeah.
All right, but let's see if I can turn a little bit of music on here.
Dude, thanks for having me.
Get out of here, dude. Thanks. I appreciate it. Glad to have you on BTL. Yeah. Enjoy rooming together. We'll get your blow-up mattress off of my king-size bed back where we turned into the studio. So, hey, I want to thank everybody for jumping on BTL at night. Like I said, we're going to do more of these. I have one scheduled for Wednesday at 5. That we have to be off the water by 1 on Wednesday. Looking to get Milliken and Miles Berghoff. Couple of and maybe Bobby Lane. Those were the 3 guys that I wanted to bring in. Now, that being said, I do not know why, but this area has cell phone coverage that is worse than Toledo Bend. And there's like 7 people that live around Toledo Bend.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah,
it's bad for you too. So hopefully some of these guys can get Wi-Fi. Clarion in. 2-star accommodations, 5-star internet.
Yeah, no, they did good. I had to update my graphs. Everything downloaded great this week.
Yeah.
I've been happy.
It is. All right, this has been another edition of BTL Bass Talk Live on location from the Bassmaster Open on Bugs Island. We'll talk to everybody hopefully tomorrow if we can throw a show together. If not, day 4 on Thursday. It's a banger with Frank Scalish. He goes all into the spawn. The 4 different spawns for largemouth and smallmouth on inland reservoirs and Great Lakes. So we'll talk to everybody then. See ya.